Welcome back to the channel. It's only been about 2 weeks since James Gunn and Peter Safran were named the co-CEOs of the new DC studios, and apparently they're going to be navigating the future of all DC things when it comes to movies, television, streaming, animation, all that good stuff, all under the umbrella of the newly formed DC studios. James Gunn has only been on the job for about 1 week, and he still has some stuff to do with the MCU that he has to take care of. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has not come out yet. He's going to have to go out there and do some press for that, probably go out there and do a lot of interviews, promote the MCU before he can get over and really work on the DCU full-time. James Gunn has taken to social media, and I think there's some interesting things that we can glean from what he had to say. James Gunn and Peter Safran also mentioned some characters, some heroes in the DCU that they find very important, that I think is very interesting, the names that are not included on this. So let's get into some of these social media engagements, and I'll let you know what I think about what James Gunn is saying, whether it's good or bad. Opened up Twitter at the end of a long creative weekend to see the many tweets to hashtag Save Legends of Tomorrow and hashtag Release the Air Cut and fan support for other DC projects over the years. The majority of these requests were enthusiastic and respectful. As the new and first ever CEOs of DC Studios, Peter and I think it's important we acknowledge you, the fans, and let you know we hear your different desires for the pathways forward for DC. For many years, it felt like there's almost been a contentious relationship between the actual customers of the DCEU, DC films, and the people running it. It didn't seem like they had much time for the fans, although they did release the Snyder Cut, but that felt more like we want you to shut up rather than we're acknowledging you. But it's smart to acknowledge the fans. It's good business to go out there and say, listen, I hear you. We might not be able to do everything that you would like, but I understand where you're coming from. I know what you want. And we acknowledge that you're frustrated, rightfully so, with the direction the DCEU, DC animation, DC television, DC streaming, all that stuff are taking. They were going off in a million different directions. And I think that was a huge mistake on the part of Walter Hamada and everybody that had a hand in planning things out under DC Films and just Warner Media. It just never really worked. They wanted to be a viable contender, a real alternative to the MCU, but that never happened. I think that's why they brought over James Gunn, because he did have so much success over in the MCU, and it certainly has been acknowledged that James Gunn actually had a lot to do with the planning out of some of the big events that have already happened in the MCU outside of the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. So we shall see if it was a good choice. I'm still very skeptical about that. But James Gunn did follow that up with another tweet. Although our ability to interact on Twitter has been lessened due to the workload of our new positions, we are listening and open to everything as we embark on this journey. We will continue to do so for the next few years, but all our initial focus is on the story going forward, hammering out the new DCU and telling the biggest story ever told across multiple films, television shows, and animated projects. There are a lot of moving parts here. There's not just what's on the table and what's been created. There are things that are actually in production. Things are going to get canceled that we probably don't even know about at this point. And it doesn't sound like Restore the Snyderverse is going to happen if you listen to the words there. It sounds like they have a big, bold, enormous vision, not just for the DCU regarding the films, but the television and animation as well, all kind of connecting together. We've never seen that. We've had the DCEU, a shared connected movie universe. We've had the CW Arrowverse, a shared DC television universe, but they've never really connected all those things. This is obviously very ambitious, and what they're trying to do quite unsuccessfully under Kevin Feige at Marvel Studios in the MCU at this very moment. They are failing left and right because connecting an entire movie universe with a television universe is really, really hard. There are different expectations for a movie and a television program, and there are huge differences regarding budget. What can you do in a movie compared to what you can actually do in streaming and television? You just can't do nearly as much. You have to focus on things that maybe work better in television, but people come in with expectations because it came over from the movie universe. Very difficult to pull off, and now they're going to include an animated universe as well. The one thing that's really been bulletproof from DC under Warner Brothers has been their animation division itself. Very, very successful stuff, and that's all been shared and connected and done very, very well. Tying that stuff into the movies and television is another risk, another gamble, but another part of this bigger picture that sounds like it's going to be very huge in scope. It's going to take a lot of years to actually pull this one off and a lot of planning. And I imagine why this isn't just a one-man show. It's a two-man show. It's not just James Gunn, the creative voice, apparently, of DC moving forward. it's also Peter Safran, the business voice of DC moving forward. And with all the things that we're hearing from James Gunn regarding the future of the DCU, I don't see them looking back. I don't see them going, you know what should have worked but failed, let's reincorporate it in. I think they'll take some chances here and there, maybe with actors where you had really good casting, but maybe the movie just wasn't right. And I see them moving forward rather than looking backwards. So people hoping for the Ayer cut, I don't see that happening. People hoping for another season of Legends of Tomorrow, I don't see that happening either. The Arrowverse is dead. That was associated with the CW. The CW have new ownership, and they've canceled everything outside of Superman and Lois. We're getting a final season of Flash. We're getting another season of Superman and Lois, and then I think it's probably going to get canceled just like everything else. They did mention Superman when talking about the important characters, but what I think is even more interesting is one addition and a couple of subtractions from the core heroes in the DC universe. We're honored to be stewards of these DC characters we've loved since we were children. We look forward to collaborating with the most talented writers, directors, and actors in the world to create an integrated, multi-layered universe that still allows for the individual expression of the artist involved. Our commitment to Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Harley Quinn, and the rest of the DC stable of characters is only equaled by our commitment to the wonder of human possibility these characters represent. We are excited to invigorate the theatrical experience around the world as we tell some of the biggest, most beautiful, and grandest stories ever told. Obviously, a lot of that ties in directly to the previous tweet, but then they start naming the actual characters that they find important. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, obviously the Trinity. Aquaman, they've had $1 billion movie, so Aquaman is now important. Traditionally with DC characters, Aquaman has always kind of been like the afterthought on the Justice League. But you make $1 billion on that movie, you've got the sequel coming out, and you do have a big star playing the Aquaman character in Jason Momoa. He's very important. And Harley Quinn, I think that is a very interesting choice to be among the 5 most important DC characters moving forward for the DCU. Margot Robbie cast as Harley Quinn, in my mind, has been good casting. She seems to have a pretty decent grasp on the role, but they have not gotten anything right yet with that character on film. The first Suicide Squad movie, while it did open up to a lot of money, absolutely sucked. There's no way around it. It doesn't matter what cut they put out there. That movie absolutely blows donkey dicks. There's nothing redeeming about that movie other than maybe the first 20, 25 minutes when they introduced the characters. Absolutely sucked. They did the Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey and the Fabuloso Emancipation of whatever that stupid fucking title was. That thing bombed. Absolutely enormous, made no money. People hated that movie, and Margot Robbie apparently had a lot of creative control over that film. Absolutely sucked ass. And then the Suicide Squad, which James Gunn directed, probably hurt by the fact that they released it day and date on HBO Max at the same time as the theatrical release, did not make a lot of money. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was entertaining. Not the best DC film or even DCEU film that I've ever seen. I would still say Shazam is the best DCEU film ever made. But they have struck out many times with Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. They have not got the character right, but still the character is a focus. Interesting of note are a couple of characters that are absent there. The Rock is the biggest action movie star in the world. He's currently playing Black Adam in theaters, and they're making a pretty decent amount of money. Not MCU big, but by DCEU standards recently, it's been pretty damn successful. And we know behind the scenes before this announcement was made for James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over, The Rock did make a power play to be like the guy that was going to take over and run DC Studios along with the $7 Entertainment. I don't know if there's a little bit of friction between the two because I imagine they were both lobbying for the position. Black Adam's been successful. The Rock is a bona fide superstar, not mentioned there. And then the other big one is The Flash. Typically, regarding sales and just popularity, after Batman, after Superman, it's Flash in the DC universe, whether it be comic books, television, all that kind of stuff. Ezra Miller is a problem as The Flash. I guess they still have really high hopes for the movie. I guess it's been screened for some testers here and there, and people generally speaking like it, but his Q rating is absolutely awful. And I imagine, despite the popularity of the character traditionally, that they did not mention The Flash for a specific reason. They're probably going to have to take that character, put him in a little timeout, recast him, do something, because you can't go forward with Ezra Miller as The Flash. When will we finally see what they're actually going to do? I'm not really sure. I don't think we're going to see James Gunn and Peter Safran sit on a stage with like a big board behind them with all the release dates and the planned titles and how they're going to interact with each other for like at least 9 or 10 months. It's a lot of planning. They have to cancel a lot of stuff. David Zaslav right now is cutting like $2 billion worth of movies and programming that they've already like spent money on to get insurance write-offs and tax write-offs and stuff like that. If you're not aware of that, I did a video talking about what David Zaslav was doing. Batgirl was not special. They are cutting costs across the board, trying to save money because they are in a lot of debt and losing money every single day. If you haven't seen this video, definitely check this out. I made it directly for you. If you don't see it here, there's also a link in the video description.